Democratic Senator Barack Obama is also considering a run for the presidency, and even this early, somebody is trying to use fear to derail his campaign. We are bringing out in the open now a false rumor that's been spreading that Obama is a secret Muslim and went to a Muslim religious school in Indonesia. To get to the bottom of this story, CNN conducted an exclusive first-hand investigation in Indonesia. And tonight, CNN contributor Howard Kurtz, who covers the media for the Washington Post, sorts out the rumors from the facts for us.
As many of you know,
from the moment Barack Obama began talking about running for president, he's drawn an increasingly loud drumbeat of positive coverage.
Barack Obama, the rising rock star.
It's about Barack Obama, the rock star.
His rock star popularity.
Barack Obama, greeted like a rock star. Huge crowds, literally, they would make a rock star envious.
But in recent days, the Illinois senator has had to cope with a rumor, pushed by a little-known conservative magazine and amplified by an echo chamber on the right. And the unsubstantiated article tries to blame the whole thing on Hillary Clinton. Insight magazine, which is owned by the conservative Washington Times, says Obama went to a madrasa, a type of Muslim religious school often associated with teaching the most fundamentalist form of Islam. The article also accused him of supposedly hiding that he was raised as a Muslim. An Obama spokesman calls the story, based entirely on unnamed sources, trash and completely false. And it is false. In fact, a CNN correspondent confirmed that the elementary school in Indonesia is a public school, not a madrasa, that happens to offer some classes in Islam for its mostly Muslim students. And this isn't even news. Obama has already revealed in his 2 autobiographies that he spent 2 years at a predominantly Muslim school. This, by the way, when he was just 6 years old. The senator today is a Christian who belongs to a Chicago church. Insight also claims the madrasa allegation has been spread by researchers, quote, connected to Senator Clinton, again, without a single named source or document. A Clinton spokesman calls the piece an obvious right-wing hit job. The allegations got a big boost from Rupert Murdoch's media empire, with the New York Post running this headline, Osama Mudd flies at Obama. And Murdoch's Fox News channel touted the claims on 2 programs.
The gloves are off. Hillary Clinton reported to be already digging up the dirt on Barack Obama. The New York senator has reportedly outed Obama's madrasa past.
Let me begin.
But as we now know, there is no madrasa past. Obama spokesman Robert Gibbs, who called Fox's broadcasting of the madrasa tale appallingly irresponsible, says he didn't think much of a clarification carried this morning on the program Fox and Friends. Fox News executive Bill Shine says some of the network's hosts were simply expressing their opinions and repeatedly cited Insight as the source of the allegations.
This, unfortunately, is how the media food chain works. A bogus charge appears in some magazine or on some website and works its way up to bigger news outlets, all based on little or no evidence. What makes the madrasa story unusual is that the false allegations are about a candidate's elementary school nearly 40 years ago, and the attempt to blame this rumor mongering on the rival campaign of Hillary Clinton. Howard Kurtz, CNN, Washington.
And let's go straight to tonight's Out in the Open panel. Niger Innis, spokesman for the Congress of Racial Equality. Rabia Ahmed, a spokesperson for the Council on American Islamic Relations, otherwise known as CARE. And syndicated columnist Miguel Perez, who's also a journalism professor at New York's Lehman College. Good to have all of you with us tonight. Do you think Senator Obama has any obligation to respond to any of this speculation when he talked about where he went to school in his 2 autobiographies?
He has an obligation to himself and his own fans.
But his campaign has spoken out and said this is nonsense.
To nip it in the bud very quickly, to express who he is. Look, Obama has gotten Senator Obama has gotten pretty much a free ride. I mean, he is being treated like a rock star. He's being treated like a celebrity, like he belongs in Hollywood more in Washington, D.C. Very positive media influence. But having said that, now we're in the season of politics being a full contact sport, and this is just the beginning. So for him, I think it's very important that he or his operatives come out if it's not true, if there's no there there.
If it's not true, you're not convinced that it's not true at this point? We sent someone to Indonesia to do our own exclusive report.
As much as I trust the journalists of CNN and watch on a regular basis, I would prefer to hear from the candidate himself. Let him come out and address this head on.
He's already said in 2 books, I went to 2 predominantly Muslim schools, one of them when I was 6 years old.
But this is a new charge, and it's a new charge that says that he went to a madras for 5 years, and a pretty formative point in his life. So that's a pretty important issue that you want to address, particularly at this time for our country.
Yeah, I see you rolling your eyes. When Niger makes this point that this is a formative period of someone's life, what does that say to you about how people look at Muslims today in America? This man doesn't even describe himself as a Muslim.
Right, I think it reflects...
Describes himself as a Christian.
Absolutely. I think anything that's associated to Islam is now associated in a negative way, and it reflects the anti-Muslim bigotry that's prevalent in our society.
So are you accusing him of being an anti-Muslim bigot?
Thank you.
No, I'm not calling you bigoted, but
I think my secretary would have a real problem with that.
No. I do think that, though, the person behind the source of the smear is exploiting anti-Muslim sentiment and the growing tide of Islamophobia in society.
Is that what is at work here, or someone's getting a twofer? They're trying to slam Barack Obama at the same time they're trying to slam Hillary Clinton?
I think, Paula, the only obligation the senator has is to laugh at this whole thing. I think this is clearly a smear tactic that is going to backfire on the people who are using it. You see all these conservatives, extremists, trying to blame Hillary, and they keep repeating the same thing over and over again, and then at the same time they're saying, well, maybe it came from Hillary's camp.
So if the motivation is fear, if the motivation is fear, what is it that's trying to be accomplished here?
They're trying to smear him. It's very obvious.
As simple as that.
Very simple as that.
But the reality is, I mean, you talk about right-wing extremists, the reality is Obama's first opponent in the campaign season is Hillary Clinton. The fact is, the first person that has within their interest to undermine the senator's free ride as of this time is Senator Hillary Clinton.
So why do all the no evidence linking anybody in Hillary Clinton's new campaign to this smear?
I don't think there's any evidence linking it any particular place right now. I don't think there's any particular track.
And I feel crediting them with this reporting, which our reporter turned upside down.
That could very well be true, but somebody could very well have leaked it to Inside Magazine. Somebody could very well be sending out that information. Look, politics is a full context. This is just the beginning. We're not even in the primary season. Right. Okay, this is just the beginning, so you should get used to it.
And in the beginning, we found Hillary and her announcement in her cozy living room with propped up on the flowered chintz pillows and the artistically arranged frames. Is the American audience, particularly the 54% of the voting public that happens to be women, going to buy into this softer image that's being sold?
I don't see anything wrong with it. I think it's perfectly fine to show a softer side. If men politicians have done this, why can't women? Why do we have to have a double standard for men and women in politics?
Will it work?
It's very hypocritical. No, it won't work. Hillary is very rough at the edges. We've all known that. She's very hard. She's very cold. And,
would that make her a bad
she doesn't
president?
Stay home to make cookies.
What, do we have to be warm and to be a good president?
No. But there's a difference. You can be a very strong leader and still be a woman. And she has to be able to separate the two. She has to be soft on one side and strong in terms of international.
Let's keep in mind.
Women are being held to a much different standard, and won't she be?
Well, she's actually been very effective. Remember, she ran for the United States Senate for New York on a listening tour. That's where it started, and it proved to be very successful. I disagree with my colleagues. I actually think this is going to be a very successful tactic.
We'll be watching. We only have 2 years to have to observe this. Could be a long election season. Niger Ennis, Rabia Ahmed, Miguel Perez stay there. We have a lot more to talk with all three of you about. Coming up in just a minute, we're going to take you to the front line in the war of intolerance. It is a street separating LA's black and Latino neighborhoods and its gangs. And now the mayor is calling in the FBI for help. Find out why. And a little bit later on, a disturbing look at whether everyday intolerance is breeding Muslim extremism right here in the U.S. We're going to take a short break. We'll be right back.
Just like your colds, your child's cold can come with plus aches and pains, so they can have coughs plus an achy body, a stuffy nose plus a throbbing head. But not every children's medicine treats all these symptoms. Children's Tylenol Plus Cold does. It combines effective cold medicines with the doctor-recommended pain relief of Children's Tylenol to help you both feel better. Stop. Think. Children's Tylenol Plus Cold.
At T. Rowe Price, successful investing is about balancing risk and reward intelligently. For each 1, 5, and 10-year period, 70% of our mutual funds beat their Lipper average. Finding the right opportunity. Low-cost mutual funds from T. Rowe Price. Invest with confidence. Request a complete prospectus or profile with investment objectives, risks, fees, expenses, and other information to read and consider carefully before investing.
This car is packed with technology.
But I find it very easy to use.
The car is simple, intuitive.
It's elegant, it's beautiful. The way it makes you feel, the safety, the security, the comfort.
We walked away from the accident because of that car.
The car's an absolute rocket. It's just a wonderful car to drive. You get what you pay for, it's that simple.
When I was a kid, I thought these cars were the most beautiful in the world, and I still do.
CNN Tomorrow, The State of the Union, Wolf Blitzer, Paula Zahn, Anderson Cooper, Larry King, A Divided Government, A New Direction, CNN Tomorrow night, 7 Eastern.
Make the move, make the move, make the move. The Hudson Honda.
Make your move. Follow me.
To Hudson Honda's $149 sales event. Just $149 a month puts you in a 2007 Honda Civic EX. $149 a month for the stylish Civic. Or just $149 a month for the Honda Accord SE, the fuel-efficient performance sedan. Your choice during Hudson Honda's $149 sales event.
Hudson Honda's making all the right moves for you.
Sports. You watch it. You love it. Now have a career in it. With an education in sports management from Gibbs College, you could work behind the scenes in the business of sports. Get involved in classes like sports marketing, promotion, and event management, and earn your degree in less time than you think. The ball's in your court. Call Gibbs now for a free brochure at 1-888-257-6601. That's 1-888-257-6601. Gibbs, what you do in here works out there.
Let's get to the truth. It's time for answers.
Lou Dobbs tonight. CNN Tomorrow, 6 Eastern.
Welcome back. Black against Latino gang warfare is out in the open tonight in LA. That city has just launched a major offensive against the racial and violence. It comes just weeks after the killing of a 14-year-old black girl, allegedly by Latino gang members. Ted Rollins brings us the very latest on that tonight.
This Los Angeles street is a deadly symbol of a racial divide between blacks and Latinos.
I've been over here for 11 years, and I ain't never really crossed the 206th Street.
206th Street is a dividing line. Darren Brown, who lives on 208th, says he and other African Americans stay on one side, Latinos are on the other, and if you cross, there can be trouble.
If you do, you got a death wish. They gonna take you out. They gonna kill you.
14-year-old Cheryl Green was recently murdered along the 206th Street border. The suspects, both Latinos, are facing hate crime charges. A week before Cheryl Green, it was 34-year-old Arturo Mercado who was shot in his front yard. Police haven't made an arrest in that case, but Latinos are blaming blacks, who they claim started this war by moving into the neighborhood about 15 years ago.
The dividing line is this street.
LA Assistant Police Chief Charles Beck blames much of the tension on a Latino gang called 204. He says the gang is motivated by hatred of blacks to the point that the gang's mission, according to the police, is to get African Americans to leave the neighborhood. These police photos show some of the gang's recent hate graffiti. This message says "move," followed by the N-word.
This gang, in a very small area with a very small membership, has managed to put itself at the very top of our enforcement priority, because they target people based on race.
So why do these Latino gang members hate blacks? We talked to a 43-year-old Hispanic man who was questioned by police about the Cheryl Green murder. We can't show his face, but listen to some of the things he says about African Americans in his neighborhood.
I just wish they would just leave and go wherever they got to go and just leave us the way we were, and everything will be cool. We had a nice little community here, and it's not nice anymore because of them.
What did they bring?
Ghettoism. They brought low life, just, they're dirty, man.
Dirty?
You guys know, man.
Black-brown tension isn't confined to gangs or this neighborhood. It's a problem in many cities, prisons, and even some schools where fights like this one last year in Southern California have broken out between black and Latino students. In Los Angeles itself, the tension has spilled into places like Watts and Compton, where competition for jobs and housing often pit the two ethnic groups against each other. But 206th Street and its obvious climate of racial hate is the symbolic center of what some believe is a worsening problem. LA's Mayor Antonio Villaraigosa and other community leaders recently held a peace rally in the neighborhood of 206th Street, getting both sides together for a few hours to talk. Those in attendance seemed eager for peace, but unless there's significant change in the level of racial hatred, blacks and Latinos will most likely continue to stay on their own side of the street. Ted Rowland, CNN, Los Angeles.
And joining me now is the mayor of Los Angeles, Antonio Villaraigosa. Thank you so much for joining us tonight, sir. Appreciate it.
Paula, thank you for inviting me to be with you tonight.
Our pleasure. So you've just come off another weekend where you saw another violent attack, this time a black man attacked by a Latino near that 206th Street line. Is Los Angeles in the middle of a race war?
No, we're not in the middle of a race war, but yes, crime between the races, between blacks and Latinos primarily, is up. We are targeting gangs that are engaged in racial violence in the Valley and in South Los Angeles and throughout the city.
How bad have things gotten that you so desperately need the help of federal law enforcement to tamp down this tension between blacks and Latinos?
It's bad enough that we believe we need to get a handle on it now. This approach has to be a comprehensive, multi-agency approach. About a couple of weeks ago, I met with Alberto Gonzalez, the Attorney General, talked to him about the gang problem in Los Angeles. I spoke and met with the FBI Director, Mr. Mueller, where we talked about providing more federal FBI assets in our fight against gangs, and have also met with and spoken with Governor Schwarzenegger.
You were elected in part because you were perceived as a man who could be a peacemaker between all these minority groups. Being Hispanic yourself, how much does it personally trouble you to see this kind of violence going on between blacks and Latinos?
Well, it pains me. The idea that a young girl, a 14-year-old girl, could be standing on the street and shot because of the color of her skin, or a Latino sitting at a bus stop shot because of his ethnicity. It's unacceptable, that kind of violence. It pains me deeply, and it pains me because I think most people in this city don't engage in that kind of activity, and most of us are appalled when we see hate-motivated violence. And so that's why we're taking such a tough stance. We live side by side, the many different ethnicities, races here in Los Angeles, and we'll get beyond this, make no mistake about that.
Mayor Villaraigosa, thank you so much for your time. Good luck. And we're going to get back to tonight's Out in the Open panel. Niger Innes, Rabia Ahmed, Miguel Perez. Welcome back. We just all winced as we heard I believe it was a Latino man describing why he hated blacks. How common do you think that attitude is?
Obviously, it's very common in Los Angeles because of all the killing that's been going on. Hopefully, it's not that common around the rest of the country, and I hope it doesn't expand to the rest of the country.
What have Latinos told you about why they hate some of these blacks who come into their neighborhoods?
I don't know too many Latinos going around saying that they hate blacks. In fact, I teach journalism in the Bronx, New York. Most of my students are African Americans and Latinos. They get along wonderful.
But that's not what's happening in Los Angeles.
And in fact, my African American students, when they write about immigration, they are so conscientious, they are so compassionate about illegal immigrants that it would surprise you, Paula, how well they do get along here in New York.
Well,
so
it'd be
I
nice
hope
if that attitude was exported to Los Angeles,
yes, we
because
should
they are
take it.
dealing
We
with
should
some
take it there.
very heightened racial tensions.
But I think it's really important, as we analyze this truthfully, that we don't elevate crime and criminals to the level of there being some type of ethnic conflict. What you have here,
But you have to concede that we're not just talking about the economics and people fighting over the crumbs here.
Right.
We are talking about crimes, hate crimes.
True, but do you know that if every black moved out of that community, that the 204th Street gang would find another group to prey upon. The fact of the matter is there are two groups here, but the groups aren't Latinos versus blacks. It is decent people of all colors versus criminals of all colors.
Absolutely.
And that's how the mayor needs to approach this and needs to deal with this comprehensively.
What is the mayor getting wrong here?
I think
He's talked about this multi-pronged approach that you have to attack this from.
I think you have to examine the issue, like Niger said, on all levels. It is an economy issue, it is an education issue, it is a job employment issue, and it can't be a Band-Aid approach. And there are people who are in LA who are working to try to bring truce and to alleviate the situation in LA.
It's also a leadership issue. I think Hispanic leaders should be talking tough to these gangs, should be telling them, we're ashamed of you, we're ashamed of the image you're projecting about our entire community, and you should cut this out or you should go back to where you came from.
Why isn't that happening? Are they intimidated by these gangs?
I don't know. I think more Latinos should stand up. Now, they are intimidated by these gangs, obviously, but I think more Latinos, especially when they're illegal immigrants, they come here. I mean, there are a lot of illegal immigrants who are hardworking, honest people who deserve a break. These people are the bad apples who are ruining it for the whole gang. And it's terrible. It's terrible what's happening, and we should put a stop to it by talking about it, by speaking out against them.
Well, you've got the director of the FBI, Robert Mueller, calling this basically what we're talking about, ground zero in gang warfare.
That's right.
Do you have any confidence that the federal involvement in this will make any difference at all as far as law enforcement is concerned?
I think it could. I think if various agencies cooperate and share intelligence and share information, it could be very helpful. I think, though, I wish there were more leaders. It's going to have to start at the ground. More leaders, black leaders that condemn black gang violence, and Latino leaders, like Miguel so eloquently said, that condemn and say that these guys don't represent the Latino community. There may be legitimate grievances between the different communities. It has nothing to do with these thuggish gangs.
So you really are saying tonight that there is nothing natural nor common about blacks and Latinos hating each other. You're talking about
there is
small
ethnic
pockets of
strife that it existed in New York City at the turn of the century. We saw it in the movie Gangs of New York between Irish, Jews, Italians. That's common, okay, and that's natural. What is unnatural is for us to elevate the level of gang violence into something more than what it is.
Niger Innes, Rabi Ahmed, Miguel Perez. Coming back to you in a couple more minutes. From coast to coast, intolerance against Muslims is just below the surface, or maybe even not. In a minute, we're going to look at whether that is turning this country's young Muslims into secret extremists. Plus, the so-called 24 factor. Are critics right to complain that the hit show 24 is reinforcing stereotypes and promoting intolerance?
Tonight at 10, the first female president.
I'm in to win.
Her husband is the master fundraiser, but can Bill Clinton help without hurting her 2008 bid? Anderson Cooper 360, CNN Tonight, 10 Eastern.
Here's how it works. Get the nation's slimmest smartphone for only $99.99. theCUBE. With easy access to email and Windows Mobile. It's the stylish way to work. From Verizon Wireless, America's most reliable wireless broadband network. Verizon Wireless, it's the network.
Phone. Okay, time to get organized.
We're gonna need a hand.
Let Office Depot help with everything from binders, file cabinets, and other organizational solutions to the latest tax preparation products and shredders. Office Depot comes in pretty handy. Click, call, or come by. Office Depot! Office Depot, taking care of business.
The materials, the medicines, things that make modern life modern come from one place, chemistry. Learn more at AmericanChemistry.com.
They were really good, and they lived in the house. Wanted to change the color of him, and it has legs, and I don't know what it is. And just worms and some bugs. sometimes, but his head is so tiny.
Who would you give a Volvo to? Tell us at volvocars.us.
Lease a 2007 XC90 3.2 for $399 a month for 24 months.
Tonight, Larry King hits the streets to find out what America wants to hear in the President's State of the Union address, plus an insider's look at tomorrow's speech, and Governor Bill Richardson on his just-announced presidential bid. Larry King Live, tonight 9 Eastern, only on CNN.
Open tonight, a growing sense that intolerance is pushing many young American Muslims towards extremists, and that has some experts concerned that that could lead to terrorism grown here at home. Here's Justice correspondent Kelly Arena.
The alarm is growing throughout the American Muslim community.
We are breeding extremism, we are breeding resentment, and we're breeding isolation.
And throughout the nation's security agencies.
Now we see in this country, on the East Coast, on the West Coast, in the center of this country, kids who have no contact with Al-Qaeda but who are radicalized by the ideology.
For years, security experts assumed the violent extremism that's taken root in Europe and in the Far East would not find a home in the United States. That the approximately 6 million Muslims who live here are too integrated and community leaders too moderate. But that rosy view is changing. Just listen to these young Muslims.
I was going to the bathroom and a bunch of girls were standing there and they looked at me and they pushed me as I walked in and they called me names, terrorists.
If this is what's going to keep happening, then yeah, everybody's going to go crazy.
So you could see something happening in America?
Why not? I mean, maybe. Because, put yourself in my position. You're being blamed for no reason. It's definitely hard to live with it.
Some experts fear the ground is being laid for the possibility of homegrown violence, something the U.S. has not yet experienced. Genevieve Abdu is the author of Mecca and Main Street.
There are discriminatory practices already being applied here in the United States against Muslims, particularly by the U.S. government.
Government watch lists, airport checks, FBI interviews, all breed resentment.
You will create a population that says, well, no matter what we do here, we're always going to be viewed as terrorists, or we're always going to be viewed as militants.
It's the little things, too. Racial slurs, suspicious stares, even TV shows that picture Muslims as terrorists. Former FBI agent Foria Yunus worries about the next generation.
Can parents, can law enforcement officers, can teachers, can people generally try to minimize that negative effect on children? I think they can, Kelly. It's hard.
Audrey Zara Williams is tackling that difficult job. She's the principal of the Islamic Foundation School in Chicago.
I think the only way that our kids will survive and not get caught up in those cliques and groups is really being exposed to tolerating other, human beings, no matter what race, color, creed.
And her students are getting the message.
Hate never fails to destroy the one who hates others. It's pretty destructive, but you're going to basically destroy yourself that way.
But with all of the forces feeding Muslim resentment, that kind of self-control is becoming more difficult.
We're at a very critical period now, and if this hostility and skepticism toward this faith continues at the rate that we see now, there could be serious problems.
Kelly Arena, CNN, Chicago.
And critics say this country's bias against Muslims is so pervasive it even shows up on primetime TV. Coming up next, we take a close look at complaints that the hit show 24 is reinforcing the perception that Muslims are always terrorists. Then a little bit later on, allegations that gay people who are black have become very specific targets of hate crimes.
To engineer a rewards card for a business like yours, Open from American Express rewrote the rules. We started with business-sized spending power, enough to buy inventory, supplies, and equipment. Spending power that can grow with your business. Because businesses spend more, You deserve more. So we put no expiration dates or limits on the number of points you can earn. And we reward you faster with accelerated bonuses that can speed you to as many as 100,000 points in just 1 year. Good for 4 domestic airline tickets or other great rewards for you, your employees, and your business. The Business Gold Rewards Card from American Express. Expanding rewards to business dimensions. That's open. How American Express serves small business. Call 888-450-OPEN to apply. We'll start you on your way to 100,000 points and waive the fee for 1 year.
They were really good, and they lived in the house. Wanted to change the color of him, and it has legs, and I don't know what it is. And just worms and some bugs, but his head is so tiny.
Who would you give a Volvo to? Tell us at volvocars.us.
Lease a 2007 XC90 3.2 for $399 a month for 24 months.
Here's a radically simple suggestion from eLoan. If your adjustable mortgage rate keeps rising, maybe it's time to call eLoan at 1-800-TRY-ELOAN or go to eLoan.com for a fixed-rate mortgage with one low monthly payment. eLoan. Radically simple.
What I love about her?
What I love about him.
How much time do we have?
I love Thomas because he's just...
I love everything about Sharon. Everything.
Everything. I love him as he is.
Find everything you're looking for on eHarmony.com. Log on today.
Just a few years ago, barely half of seniors had prescription drug coverage. Today, for the first time ever, 90% of them are covered. The Medicare prescription benefit isn't a year old, but it's already making a difference. Real savings for seniors. A wide choice of plans, not a one-size-fits-all. The medicine seniors need for the care they deserve. The Washington Post says, give it a chance. Medicare's prescription drug benefit. It's working.
CNN Tonight at 10, the first female president.
I'm in to win.
Her husband is the master fundraiser, but can Bill Clinton help without hurting her 2008 bid? Anderson Cooper 360, CNN Tonight, 10 Eastern.
Today, Al-Qaeda's number 2 man appeared in a new videotape threatening the U.S. and blasting the president's plan to send even more troops to Iraq. With that continuing threat from radical Muslim terrorists, how can Americans avoid demonizing all Muslims? That is the question out in the open tonight after the premiere of the new season of one of this country's most popular TV shows. Entertainment correspondent Sevilla Vargas has our report tonight.
We have to go.
Not until we find Paula.
We're not here to kill one American. We're here to kill thousands.
Terrorists killing American civilians on American soil.
Oh, he has a gun. I don't want to hurt any of you, but I will unless you do exactly what I say.
God, Stan was right. You are a terrorist.
That is the scenario offered up in Fox's dramatic series 24. But casting fictional Arab terrorists has gotten the attention of some real-life American Muslim groups, including the Council for American Islamic Relations and the American Arab Anti-Discrimination Committee, who say the show casts all Muslims in a negative light.
Well, we're upset with the show because this is the second or third time they've come to, blame, and have Arab villains on the show, and now they've done the most despicable thing possible in the first 4 hours of this season.
More than 15 million people tuned in to watch the destructive climax of last week's 4-hour season premiere as the Arab terrorists detonated a nuclear bomb in Los Angeles.
Look, these 4 hours aired, and in these 4 hours there were some really egregious stereotypes that were played out.
This isn't the first time that Fox has come under fire from American Muslims. After the series featured Muslim extremists plotting to attack nuclear power plants in 2005, series star Kiefer Sutherland took to the air to remind viewers that the American Muslim community stands firmly beside their fellow Americans in denouncing and resisting all forms of terrorism.
It's not like Muslims are always terrorists on every season of 24. The terrorists have actually been a number of different nationalities.
That's exactly what Fox claims. In a statement, the network said, over the past several seasons, the villains have included shadowy American businessmen, Baltic Europeans, Germans, Russians, Islamic fundamentalists, and even the Anglo-American president of the United States. No ethnic group singled out for persecution or blame. In 3 of the show's 6 seasons, Muslims have been cast as the bad guys in one form or another. And Arab American groups feel they've become an easy target for Hollywood screenwriters.
It seems easy to vilify Arabs these days, obviously, given what's happening around the world and what the United States is facing in Iraq and with the Middle East crisis in general.
But it's still early in season 6, and fans can expect many twists and turns before 24 hours end, and the real villains are exposed.
Who's to say that a Muslim terrorist in one episode doesn't emerge as a hero in the next?
Sabila Vargas, CNN, Los Angeles.
And we're going to go straight back to tonight's Out in the Open panel. Niger Innis, Rabia Ahmed, Miguel Perez. We mentioned at the top of the show that you were a member of the Council of American Islamic Relations. And last week, you were quoted as saying that after watching the show, I was afraid to even go to the grocery store because I wasn't sure the person next to me would be able to differentiate between fiction and reality. What are you afraid of?
Well, we can't underestimate the power of images in shaping public perceptions of Islam. And I'm afraid that somebody out there can't distinguish between fact and fiction and will actually act on those attitudes and engage in a backlash against innocent Muslims. It's a reality. It's a backlash. Is something that the American Muslim community has faced in the post 9/11 climate.
And we know that 4 out of 10 Americans in a Gallup poll showed that they feel some prejudice directed at Muslims. You have your head covered. Do you think that that in and of itself is intimidating to people? Have you sometimes felt in public that people are staring at you?
Oh, sure, absolutely.
That you think you have a weapon hidden under that or whatever?
Every time I fly and travel. And that's indicative of the work that we need to do. If attitudes towards Islam and Muslims are so negative and there's such a prevalent misunderstanding of our religion, images like Muslims as terrorists in the absence of any positive or neutral images of Muslims really doesn't do anything good for our interfaith relations or the future of this country.
That may be true, but let's talk about who have actually been accused of committing some of the most vicious terrorist attacks, 9/11.
In reality,
the Madrid bombings. Aren't those Muslim extremists? Last time I looked, they were.
Yeah,
they're very
the
real.
reality of the situation is that the majority of Muslims are not terrorists.
Absolutely not. I agree.
And so it's unfair to be so unbalanced in your portrayal of Muslims. If the only way that they're being portrayed as are as terrorists or oppressed.
But you understand why that perception has taken root? I mean, you may not agree with it.
Yes, I do, and it goes back to the same argument we were having earlier about blacks and Latinos. It's a question of image, it's a question of leadership, it's a question of Muslim leaders condemning terrorism in much stronger terms than they have.
And they have.
That is the problem that we're having here. It's credibility, and I don't think Muslim leaders in this country have the credibility to be able to clear their names because they're not condemning terrorism in very strong terms.
I disagree. Our organization, the leading advocacy group for American Muslims, has consistently and regularly condemned terrorism. And if you visit our website at www.care.com, you can see a list of condemnations. And I think it's unfair.
People have been critical of your organization because they said, that you will condemn the actions of the terrorists, but that you won't make a strong condemnation against Hezbollah.
No, that's absolutely false. We have, and it's clear, judge us by our actions and the work. Visit our website, see all the condemnations. We have unequivocally condemned all forms of terrorism, whether it's done by states, individuals, or groups.
And I'm
using this opportunity to reiterate that point.
And that's a good thing. And more of that needs to be done. Miguel hit the nail right on the head. The fact is that communities, ethnic groups, as opposed to circling the wagons around what leaders do, which is tend to circle the wagons or apologize misbehavior, need to come out and condemn. And if CARE has been as forthright in condemning terrorism and Islamic extremism, then bless them. They're doing a good work, and it's a good thing. It's important for the community.
Let's be realistic here for a moment. What obligation does some television show have to balance its characters in a fictional TV program?
I'm a little bit biased here because I'm a huge fan and have been for several years of 24. And if you are a watcher of 24, you not only realize that there's a diversity in terms of how different ethnic groups or characters within the
what you're saying, they
show.
spread the bad guys out over
There are all kinds of bad guys. There are black bad guys. There are white bad guys. You had a WASP president of the United States that essentially was a traitor and undermining his own country.
Right. But you don't have 4 or 10 Americans looking at black guys as potential terrorists. Isn't there a fundamental difference here?
But look, The Sopranos is not made up of a bunch of East Indians. It's made up of Italians.
On this issue, I'm on the other side of the argument. I think 24 could do a lot more instead of a disclaimer.
It's a fictional television program,
but in
Miguel.
a fictional...
And what impact does it really have,
you can
do you
be balanced
think,
in
on
fiction.
reinforcing
And it is.
prejudices?
You can
But
have
Miguel, do you watch
positive,
it?
Yeah, sometimes. You have to have positive characters, positive role models, Muslims
And
who
what?
are
And
to
that's gonna
present
make people look at Rabia in public and not
that
jump
Muslim
to the
leader
sake of-
we were talking about earlier, condemning, should be part of the show. Instead of a disclaimer when you go to commercials. That's the problem.
If you're going to say that the show is based on reality, the reality is that the majority of Muslims are lawyers, they're doctors, they're teachers, they're mothers like myself, and they condemn terrorism. So all that we're saying is that, look, Fox doesn't have it has the right to do whatever it wants. It can portray Muslims as they choose, but we're appealing to their social responsibility to portray Muslims in a neutral or positive, in a realistic light, to show the reality.
It is a show about terrorism. If you're gonna, I mentioned The Sopranos before. If you're gonna have something on the mafia, you're not gonna be talking about East Indians. You're gonna be talking about a particular ethnic group. So you're talking about terrorism. Unfortunately, in this day and age, you are predominantly going to be talking about Islamic extremism.
It's not fair to compare that, because in the post-9/11 climate, the American Muslim community is the one that's facing the backlash, not the Italians. And while it's wrong to vilify any group,
keep speaking out. I think that's the solution.
We'll let you all continue to speak out, Nigerians. Rabia Ahmed and Miguel Perez, thank you all. In some cities across the U.S., there is a hidden, thriving subculture, young people who are black and gay. And in a minute, a city where the secret is out in the open and the resulting intolerance is making life very dangerous. We'll explain why when we come back.